Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first of many to come of my fall videos for this year. If you're new here, hi, my name's Katie. I'm really happy to have you here. Fall is my favorite season. I get very excited about Halloween. I know this has sort of become a cliche at this point because so many people love spooky season, but I don't care. I'm going to enjoy it to its full extent. So today we're going to be putting the energy drink in my new Halloween mug. So yeah, it's officially spooky season on this channel, which means you have lots of fall videos to look forward to. And instead of making one long fall reading list video, I decided to split them up. I just spilled that everywhere because I feel like there are a couple of different distinct moods for fall reading moods. Some people like to read really scary horror novels. Some people like just fluffy, cozy kind of books. Personally, I love reading thrillers, fast-paced, keep you on the edge of your seat thrillers. And so that's why that's our first fall video. Today I'm going to be recommending to you my favorite thrillers that I think are perfect for the fall Halloween spooky time. I'm going to warn you in advance, apparently I have bad taste in thrillers. I've loved all of these books, but I've seen a lot of negative reviews for these books as well. So just full disclosure, a lot of people really hate these books. These just tend to be hit or miss. People really like them or they really hate them. I've heard some people say that some of these books were the worst book they've ever read. So if you're new here, you might be kind of screwed taking these recommendations, but if you're an old subscriber and you think you have a similar reading taste as me, you'll probably love these books. I feel like that's a really bad way to start a recommendations video. You might hate these, but I just want you to go in knowing everything, okay? I have 7 books to recommend to you today. I'll have them all linked down below if you want to go learn more about them. I think I have a review for 1 or 2 of them. If so, I'll link them up while I'm talking about them. If you have any requests for fall videos that you want to see in the next month or 2, feel free to leave those in a comment as well. But other than that, let's just keep this intro short and get straight into the books. So I think I'm going to start with the books that I listened to on audio. I've actually learned that I prefer reading thrillers physically even though I love audiobooks. So the first one is a pretty recent read for me, and that was Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I believe he has 3 thrillers that are out right now. I have holds on his other 2 from the library because I'm really excited to read more of his stuff, but I think this is the most highly rated one that I've seen. And so Lock Every Door follows this girl who's in her mid-20s who's just sort of down on her luck. She's had a really unfortunate life. She's an orphan, she's recently homeless, she's lost her job, she doesn't really have any friends. She's basically hit rock bottom until she sees this ad in the newspaper looking for an apartment sitter for a luxury apartment in a very historically famous apartment building in Manhattan. And so in order to be an apartment sitter for this building, they're offering her an insane amount of money, but they have some weird rules that she has to follow. She can't have any visitors to the apartment, she can't spend any nights away from the apartment, and she's not really supposed to talk to any of the residents, things like that. And this apartment building is sort of famous for having bad things happen, and it has a really bad past of tragic events. And I ended up giving Lock Every Door a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a book that I think I read within a 24-hour period, so if you're looking for something fast-paced, would highly recommend. This totally goes with the creepy vibes if you're looking for that around Halloween, especially if you like horror movies. This isn't a horror novel, but this one, more so than any of the other thrillers I'm going to recommend to you, bridges the gap between horror and thriller. So if you want something disturbing, totally recommend this one. Very fast-paced, very easy to read. You're probably gonna either love or hate the plot twist and the ending. If you've already read it, let me know what you thought of it without spoiling anyone. Just tell me if you liked it or not. I personally liked the ending. But yeah, I would highly recommend Lock Every Door. The only other one that I listened to in audio that I'm gonna recommend in this video was Sometimes I Lie. And this one is a tentative recommendation. I almost didn't include this book in this video just because if you're gonna read it, please read the physical copy. Don't listen to the audiobook. I think the audiobook ruined it for me. I hated the narrator. But this book has a very vague description, and I would recommend going into it pretty much blind. All you really need to know going into it is the woman is in a coma. She thinks her husband doesn't love her anymore, and sometimes she lies. I almost DNF'd this book. I really didn't enjoy the first half of it. I ended up giving it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. But the reason why I'm recommending this to you is because of the plot twist. That's literally it. If you like plot twists, if you like thrillers that have really good plot twists in it, this one really got me and definitely redeemed the book for me, considering I wanted to DNF it and I really didn't enjoy the first half. So I think it's worth pushing through, honestly, to get to the ending. The ending redeemed it for me, which is actually the case for a lot of thrillers. I find that if they land the ending, I'm willing to forgive a lot of flaws earlier in the book. So if you start this one and you're not loving it and you're struggling through the first half, just know that it's worth pushing through. Okay, so now on to the physical thrillers that I have read. I'm gonna start with the one that I've read the most recently, and that was The Arrangement by Robin Harding. I talked about this one very recently in a reading vlog, and I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved this one. This one is extremely fast-paced. I could not put it down. It was addicting. I feel like most thrillers are set in New York City. This is also about a young girl living in New York City. She's an art student. She's 21 years old, and she comes from a very small town and not a lot of money. And she learns from one of her friends about the whole sugar baby, sugar daddy scene, and she decides to look into it when her finances start getting really tight. Her sugar daddy is a married man, so he wants to keep everything a secret, but she doesn't know that he's married, and you're reading from the 2 point of views of the sugar daddy and the sugar baby, and inevitably the girl falls in love with him and things get really messy. This one doesn't have like a mind-blowing plot twist or anything like that. I found everything pretty predictable, but I'm recommending it because it's disturbing reading from both of these people's point of view. Both of these characters are so unlikable. It's so disturbing reading from them, but I couldn't put the book down. So fast to read. Highly recommend. The next one I have to recommend is great if you also like smutty romance books, and that's Verity by Colleen Hoover. I read this very early on this year, and honestly I'm thinking about rereading it in October because I loved it so much. But the problem with that is this book is another one where the ending and the plot twists are what redeemed the book 100% for me. And so rereading it, I'm not gonna have the same experience because I know that the plot twist is coming. But this book follows Lowen, who I also believe is living in New York City, and she's a writer who's also struggling financially. There's a lot of common themes in these books. And she's presented with this opportunity to ghostwrite the rest of a famous series for an author who is no longer able to. So she goes to this author's family's house to live there for a couple of days, go through the author's notes in her office and everything to try and figure out if she had outlines for the upcoming books and everything. And in the famous writer's office, she finds an unpublished manuscript, which is sort of like an autobiography, and our main character gets sucked into reading that and starts learning some really disturbing things about this family while she's living in their house. This book definitely has its iffy moments. If you're familiar with Colleen Hoover, you know what to expect from her writing. The romance is my least favorite part of the book, but there is a lot of smut in here, a lot of sex scenes, and I'm recommending this to you 100% because of the ending and the plot twist. It's also really creepy throughout, so if you like horror movies and kind of just like suspense, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of like psychological, is it happening? Is it just in her head? We don't really know. But frankly, this is one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I was blown away by it. I think probably because I went in with no expectations of it. But if you are familiar with Colleen Hoover, just don't expect this to be anything like her previous books because it's literally nothing like her other books, for better or for worse, depending on how you feel about her. But I loved this book. Totally worth it if you're looking for a good plot twist. This next one I feel like used to be a better recommendation than it is now, and that is You by Caroline Cap Ness. And I just say that because of the TV show. I read this when it first came out and I adored it, and I still liked the TV show, but if you've only watched the show, I definitely think the book is better. Highly recommend reading it. This is perfect to read this time of year because you're reading from Joe's perspective, and if you don't know what this book is about, it's about a man who's stalking a woman and tricks her into becoming his girlfriend, basically. And the book is written in second person, so it's like you did this and then you did this, and you're reading from the perspective of the stalker, so it's like you're the stalker, and it's chilling to read. I think it's so well written. I loved this book. It's like no other reading experience that I've ever had. I love how morally gray our characters are and just how conflicted you feel, especially because you're reading from this psycho guy's point of view. It's like nothing I've ever read. Totally recommend this, especially if you haven't seen the TV show yet. Read this first. This next one I think I have a full review for. It's pretty old and kind of cringy, but that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is another one, 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I told you the ratings for the last two, but the last two were also 5 out of 5 stars. This one kind of bridges the gap between thriller and science fiction. Essentially, there are these different parallel dimensions where a different version of yourself exists for every possible decision you could have made, no matter how small. There's a different dimension where that different decision played out. And our main character is essentially kidnapped by a different version of himself because that version wants to take over his life, and we're following his journey trying to get back to his family. This is another one read it because of the ending. That's what I look for in a good thriller. Obviously, I love good plot twists. I love the ending. It's not even like a plot twist. The ending is just like mind-blowing, and I was just like reading with my mouth wide open like, oh my god, what is happening right now? This is one of the rare cases though where I would recommend the audiobook for this one. I tend to not like audiobooks for thrillers, but I think this one's pretty well done. Again, super fast paced. I think I read this in a day. This one isn't as like creepy or scary. It's more mysterious and thought-provoking, and like I said, mind-blowing at the end, but I would highly recommend this one. I want to talk about the ending with you guys so bad. I just want to have like a full video just talking about the ending of this book, but I don't want to spoil you, so please go read it. And then my last book that I have to recommend for you today, you probably know if you've been around for a while, because this is one of my all-time favorite books, and I push this at people on a regular basis, and that is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. This is one of my all-time favorite books. I cannot get over how much I loved this book, and I read this book probably 6 years ago. This is another one though that a lot of people seem to hate it. So go in knowing you're going to have to be patient. Considering it's a thriller, it's not fast paced. It is not like the other books that I recommended on this list where I'm like, you're gonna read it in 24 hours. You're gonna read this one slowly. There's so much going on. There's so much depth. There's so much to think about, and it's just not fast paced. So go in with that expectation. Don't go in thinking you're gonna speed through this or you're gonna get impatient and bored and then you're gonna put it down. But this book follows Scott, who is an investigative journalist whose reputation was ruined basically by this, I just got lipstick all over my hand. His reputation was ruined by this famous occult horror film director, and after that director's daughter allegedly commits suicide, the journalist starts looking into it because he thinks there's more to this story. And so basically this horror film director has made all of these films that are like on the dark web or whatever. I don't know terms for these kind of things, but he's super famous, but no one ever actually sees him. He's very secretive, but his films everyone knows about. So in addition to looking into this potential suicide, Scott is also looking into what's really going on with this horror film director, because no one really knows his story, and Scott is convinced there's something kind of sketchy going on with him. And the book is written in like a multimedia format. There's web pages in here. You get to see the like secret website and stuff for his movies and stuff, and there's photographs, like all kinds of stuff like that. I love this book. I just think it's so complex, and the character of Cordova, who is the director, it's just crazy how well fleshed out he is. Like, this book made me believe he was a real person and that this whole like following actually existed. Like, there's this whole culture around it. It's just so interesting. I probably really liked this also because I like horror movies, so I just found this whole situation fascinating. There's just so many layers to it, and every time you learn something else pops up. I never knew where this was going. Honestly, it does kind of like meander around, which is why I think you need patience if you're gonna read this, but the payoff when you get to the end, in my opinion, is 100% worth it. I feel like I just like talked everyone out of reading this, but please give it a chance. It's one of my all-time favorite books. I've never read anything like this. I'm convinced this book is just brilliant. So those are all of my recommendations for today. I am relatively new to reading thrillers. I only really started getting into that genre within like the last year or two. So if you have any other favorites that I didn't talk about today, feel free to leave those in the comments down below, both because I want to read them and also so other people can see some other recommendations. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I put up at least 2 new videos every single week, and I would love to have you stick around. Follow me on Instagram if you want to, and I will just see you guys in my next fall spooky video very, very soon. Bye. Also, can we just appreciate my new Halloween decor? I love it. We've got It's Hocus Pocus Time witches. We've got skeletons in love. We have a spooky typewriter. I'm so excited for Halloween.
So hit me. So hit me. So hit me. First a confession. With you I feel a connection. With